In part 7 of this tutorial series, we will set up the code for managing player prefs, which we will use to store the index of the highest level that the player has completed. We will also implement the UI that will allow the player to switch to levels that they have already completed.
I think before we set up our additional levels, let's create the loading scene. So let's save this. We might have to. Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, that's all sorted. Scenes, levels 1. Okay. So what we'll do is we're going to create a new scene, and we can literally just get rid of everything. We don't need any lights, cameras, nothing. And then we can create an empty object. Just call that load. And then let's just, in scripts, let's just create a C# script and just call it load. All right, and then assign that. And let's go ahead and edit that. All right, so let's get rid of all this. We can keep our start function. Okay, so first of all, we need to just do some checks just to make sure that the current player pref exists already. So to check, when a player starts a game for the first time, we need to check that the player pref exists, and check to make sure that the player pref is also not like below 0 for some reason, and then also check to make sure that our player pref is not, for our max level index, is not above the actual maximum number of levels. So what could happen is you could have a game with 8 levels, play it and unlock all the 8 levels, and you get up to level 8, and then your index is 8 for the 8th level, and then maybe you get an update for the game where 3 of those levels have been removed, but your player pref could still be set to 8, and then when you try, it will allow you to potentially, it will initially, when you first load, it's going to try and load level 8. Level 8 doesn't exist, so we need to just do a couple of checks first, just to make sure that there's no issues with our player prefs. So if first we want to check if the player pref exists already. So we say has key, and the key, we're going to call it max level index, and it is case sensitive. Does has key equal false, meaning does it not exist, or is the player prefs dot get int. We're going to try and we'll just copy paste this so we make sure we don't mess that up. I'll just double check. Max level index. Yeah. We're going to try and get the index, and if the index is anything less than 1, because the first level should be an index of 1, because this loading scene will take up the 0 index. And in either of those cases, we just want to go and say, okay, either it doesn't exist or it's negative for some reason. We're just going to set the player pref dot set integer for player pref, and we're just going to set it to 1, meaning the first level. Now, if it does exist, and it's not negative, sorry, it's not 0 or negative, then it means the player pref does exist, it's above 0. But if we want to check, what if playerprefs dot playerpref dot get int. Well, what if it is greater than our scene manager dot scene count in build settings -1? So what if there is more? What if our max level index is greater than the actual number of scenes in our game? So then in that case, we will set our player prefs int, and we will just set it to whatever our whatever the number of scenes that we have -1. That will be our max index. And then we'll go, now that we've made sure that all of that is all sorted out, we can say, we'll then go and scene manager dot load scene, and we will then load the max scene index. Okay, and that's it. That's all we have for the loading screen, and that's attached, and that will all run automatically. Oops, so we have to save it. So scenes, we'll just call this load. And then let's make sure that's in the build settings. So add open scene, load, which is on 0. And then we'll go to level 1, build settings, add open scene, which is an index of 1. So whenever if we want to test the game properly, it would be good to start off at the load screen, let that happen, and then it will continue on. So now if I click load, hit play, it should take us to level 1 automatically. Because what it would have seen is that we have never set any level indexes, and so it didn't exist, so it would have set it to 1, and 1 is the first level. So let's go to level 1. And in our code, there's something that we kind of skipped over in our level manager when we loaded the next scene. In level manager, next play, here we go. So what we're going to do is that as soon as we complete a level, we need to we basically need to update our max level index to, you know, save that we have unlocked the next level, you know, considering that it's not the last one and that there is a next one. And so then we can say, okay, the same thing we did here. We say set int. In fact, we can copy this line back to our level manager, and rather than saying 1, it is just going to be our next scene index, which we just increased by 1. So even at this point, even if they just close the game, they will still have the next level saved as their max level, and when they reopen the game, it will go ahead and load that next level. Actually, you know what? One last thing that I think would be good to do now before we go and make all of our extra levels, just because it'll just be easier, is that we're going to have a little menu button, and that menu button is going to allow the player to navigate across to other levels. And so if we just create it in this scene, when we make all the other levels, we can just, you know, just copy the scene and it'll all be set up. We don't have to make prefabs and drag them in and make sure they're all set up and referencing everything. It's just a bit easier this way. So let's go ahead and set up the menu for our level select. So like similar to what we did with the next level panel, we're going to create another UI. We're going to create another UI panel. Set the alpha, sprites, gray panel. All right, 2D. And what we can do is we can call this our level select panel. That looks okay. And actually we'll copy the color that we used here. We'll use the same color for our level select panel. Okay. And then for that we'll have our font. Font. Sorry, text. Text Mesh Pro text. That's it. And then we get our font. Drag that in. Uppercase. You know the drill. Auto size. 1001. And we can just say go to level. Whatever level it's going to be. Center. And then we're going to have a little bit of a slightly more complicated little system here, which is going to consist of two buttons and a label sitting on a panel. So we want to create another panel. UI. Sorry, sprites. Another gray panel. So this one is going to be smaller. It's going to sit, it's going to be a little bit smaller like that. And then within that panel, we're going to have two buttons. Don't worry about having a Text Mesh Pro button, we'll just have a regular old button and we'll just delete the text. And it will also be a sprite swap, with this being the default and this being the pressed. Actually one's fine. Maybe two. No, I think I'll go with one. That's good enough. Cool. So we have this button, which will look a bit more like that. And so rather than a text, we are going to create a UI image. Zero that off, and we're going to use our arrow sprite here. And that arrow sprite, what we can do is we can use the color picker and pick the same color as that. Actually, we'll make it a little bit slightly darker. Sure. Except this image, we got preserve. No, we don't have preserve aspect. There we go. And it will be, yeah. That looks pretty good in terms of, oops. Yep, that'll be fine. What I might do, might make it a touch smaller. Okay. Let's just make sure we've got all of our anchors set up properly there. We don't have to be too perfect with that. And then, oops, and I might make our button more like that kind of shape, and we can just scale that up a bit. Yeah. Maybe just a touch smaller. That looks good. And so this will be our right button. So we can call this button right. And then we're simply going to duplicate this, and we're going to call this button left. And then we are going to just, oh wait, sorry. The image, we're going to just spin around. And I was just holding down Control to do that in increments, otherwise you can just put 180 on the Z rotation. Okay. So there's no worry about those being not on the same level. And then we need to just display our TextMesh Pro text. Uppercase. Actually, uppercase doesn't really matter because we're going to use numbers, and that is just going to be for the level count. Let's see, auto size. Great. So let's see how we can fit all of this nicely. Something like that. I mean, our number could have, potentially like, I mean, I doubt it's you're gonna have more than like 99 levels. But let's just say it would be, a bit smaller than that. Yep. And then the panel can just be a bit smaller, or not as wide. Doesn't need to be so wide. And then take everything, just move it more centered. Okay. Yep, that looks good to me. So let's just set all that up in terms of the anchors. So same with bottom right. So let's see. Let's set our y top to 0. Our y max to 0.8. I'd say 8.3 is good. Yeah, I'd say 8.3, and that would be 1.7. So top and bottom, and we can copy that for the left 0.8317. No, sorry. 1783. That's right. Okay, that's right. And that's right. Now, as for the left and right, I mean, you could do the same thing, I think, or let's see, x max, we could put 9, 5, no, 9, I think 9.4 is actually pretty good. So for the left one, for it to be the same, the x min would need to be 0, 0, 6. And then what were we on here? Our x min here was going to be like 0. What was like 668 or something. So that is going to be the same as so 0.68 is going to be the same as 0.3 for the x-axis. 0.32. Okay, that's pretty good. And then we just left with the text. Text y was like that and like this. So to get that perfectly centered, we're looking at like 0.6, 0.61, and on the it's a x max, and then shouldn't that be 0.49? No. Sorry, 0. Oh right, so that's going to be 0.39, I believe, because it's 15. Yeah, because that's half, and then that's going to be, sorry, 11. So that's 11 plus, and then 50 minus 11 is 39. So that should be centered then. Honestly, we can set that to like, if that was 0.75, then this can be 0.25. That should be centered. Hooray. Let's just, now we can just scale this. It's great. To whatever size we want. We will need to move, might need to move this up. I mean, the whole panel needs to be like, why isn't it letting me? What? Oh, sorry. The whole panel needs to be a bit stubbier and just a little bit longer. So kind of like that. Just center it for now. This one can be, yeah, bigger like that. Center that for now. And then the last element will just be a play button once the desired level number has been selected. Now let's just let's bring that back to here. Let's bring that back to just 1. Yeah, that's fine. And under our level select panel, we're going to create another just regular button. Actually, no. We're going to create a text mesh pro button because we're going to use our text mesh font for the name. I wish it had all these settings automatically, you know. And then it's annoying because then you have to, then you got to keep resizing. Then you got to keep on resizing this all the time. I'm just going to do it by eye. Need it. I don't know, something like that. Doesn't matter if it's absolutely perfectly centered, I guess. It'll be fine. Make it less dark. Okay. That's all. Yeah, that's fine. All right, button, and this, the button will need to say just play. Play, play, play. Button play. Oh, our button needs an actual, needs our sprites. You know, if you were making lots and lots of these, you'd probably create prefabs. You'd get it perfect and then make a prefab and then just drag them in. Rather than having to constantly, you know, do this whole process all the time. Bring that down a bit. All right, so this can be taller. Our panel doesn't need to be that. Oh, geez. Okay, hold on. We need to just settle these to be centered rather than being stretched by the panel just yet. Okay. Actually, you know what? This whole thing can be bigger. Maybe not that big. Yeah. That's better. All right, now that I'm happy with that, yeah, make this a bit. Make that bigger. Make this panel bigger. and make our play button bigger. Jeez. I think our play button text is actually a bit too dark. It's a bit harsh. Okay. Other than it not being centered, I'm fairly happy. I might just make that play button a little bit less crazy. Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's just work on centering these things. I think that this was already done. Once again, we got the wrong thing selected. There we go. So we'll have to set that up now. We can do this fairly roughly. We just know that this can be like 1.5, and this can be like 8.5, and the top and bottom don't matter too much. It's more about just making sure it's centered. Same thing here. This can be 6.5. Or even, let's say 6.7, and this can be was that supposed to be 0. 0.67, and then that can be 0.3. Might make that 0.7, that 0.3, because it's just looking a little bit too, it was just looking a bit small. Then our play button, set this anchor there, that anchor there, 3664. Okay, finally we have our UI put together. Doesn't actually do anything right now, but you can click on it, I guess. So let's create the script that is going to handle this level selection interface. So let's go into scripts and create a new script, and we can call this script level select manager. And we will open that up. Okay. The main method that our buttons, or that's going to be accessed, will increment or decrement the level index, or at least the desired level index. So for that, we will have a public void. We'll just call this change level, and that's going to take an integer, and we can just call this, increment. And we will need a to keep track of our desired level index. So we need a private int, we just call this level index. And then we're just going to simply add our increment. So level index plus equals. So that's like saying increment, so level index equals level index plus whatever the increment is. And then for the left button, we're going to basically pass a value of -1, which added will reduce level index or decrement it by 1, and then +1 will go up in 1. So let's set that up with our buttons. Finding first our level selection panel and our level select script manager. Yep. And then let's find our buttons. We have button right, button left. So button right is going to call our change level with a value of 1 in the positive. And button left is going to be the same thing, except -1 here. Change level -1. Okay, that's pretty simple. Now we will need references to the buttons. So what we're going to do is that to prevent the player from setting a level index that is, below 1 or above the max, we're going to basically disable the buttons to prevent them from doing that. So we'll have to keep track of what our max level is so that we know when to disable the button to stop the user from adding more as well. So we have a private int level index, private int max level, and then we need a public reference to our buttons button, and we want our left button and our, so we can set them to be non-interactable. Right button, and when we set it non-interactable, we're gonna have to change the color of the button as well as setting it non-interactive, just so it's visually apparent, because we don't have a non-interactable sprite specifically for this. So we're just going to change the color and the so we need a public color, and we can just call this disable button color. All right, great. So first of all, so we want to call awake, not start, because at the start this object is not going to be active. We want this to all happen as soon as the level select UI has become active. So let's first of all assign our max level, which equals, in fact we can just copy that again from our level manager, from our load, which is here, refs get int. There we go, max level will equal that, and by default we'll set the level index to the current scene manager dot get active scene dot, so whatever the current build index is, and oh yeah, and we'll also need to be able to update that that number text. So we'll need a public text mesh prelude UI, and we'll just call this level number label. All right, cool. So every time we increase our level index, we'll need to update the UI. You know, that involves, you know, checking which buttons you have to disable, updating the label, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll create a private void called update UI. Yeah. And we will call update UI at the very start here, because we need to know whether we need to disable certain buttons and all of that, and what the current build is and everything. And we also want to update the UI after every time we increment the level index. So update UI, call that again here. Right. So first off, let's update the label. So our level number label is going to equal, dot text is going to equal the level, is going to equal our level index dot toString. Just missing a, okay, level index toString. And so now this is where we're going to be enabling or disabling the buttons. So if our level index is equal to 1, which is for the first level, then we don't want to allow the button to be pressed to lower our level index any further, and we want our left button dot image dot color to equal our disabled button color. Right, that's good. Otherwise, we basically want to do the opposite. So if it isn't, then we want it to be true, and we just want it to be color dot white, just plain. Okay. And then we're just going to do the same sort of thing, except for the right button. So if the level index equals the max level, we don't want players being able to select a level that is higher than the level that they're able to unlock. Or if you wanted to, you could allow them to view levels higher than what they've actually unlocked. But then what you could do is, rather than disabling the right button, let them keep pressing right, and then you could disable the play button. But I feel like you would need to then provide some kind of other indicator to say this level is locked and you haven't unlocked it yet, rather than them thinking, hold on, why can't I press play anymore? You know, what's going on? So this is just a more user-friendly, just a simpler kind of approach without any kind of user experience issues. So yeah, level index equals max, and we're going to be doing this just for the right button instead. Okay, cool. And then lastly, we will need a method for our play button to call. So that'll just be a simple, load level method, and that will just tell the scene manager to load the scene of our level index. Great. Now, the thing is that by default, and now let's change the name of this. Let's just call this, we can just call this like level, level select panel. Now, oh, sorry, it's already called level select panel. So our level select panel, what's going to happen is the way that the player is going to be able to bring this up is we're just going to create a little button, menu button. So this is quite simple. In fact, we're not even going to use a script for this. Yeah, that's fine like that. And this is going to not have any text, and the button is going to take this sprite here. We want to make sure we preserve our aspect, and let's pop this up, and it's just going to sit up in the top right corner. We can make that a bit bigger. Yeah, like that. Actually, you know, I feel like I should make it a bit bigger, and then just move this level panel just so it's not so close. Yeah. Anchors. That's fine. Yeah, that's easy. And then let's just move this a little bit further out of the way. Yeah. And you know what, while we're at it, might make this a little bit. Yeah. And that's not, we could make this like a little bit smaller as well. It doesn't need to be that big. Okay, that looks good now. And we'll just reset these anchors. Great, that's all sorted. No problems there. And we can just leave all this. We're just going to have a color tint when they press it. And then what we're going to do is simply, rather than writing a script and all of that with a method, what we can do is we can take our level select panel, plus on click, level select panel, and for the function we can just say game object and then set active and then tick that for true. So now as soon as you click that, it's going to set our level select panel as active, and then when that happens, that's when our awake function gets triggered, sets everything up, sorts everything out, and then we just need to make sure that our button play is going to work with our level select load level. There we go. Save that. Okay, we need to set the anchors for our level select panel. Let's see, say 0.75, 0.25. Okay, that's good. Kind of would prefer it if it was covering that up a bit. Okay. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Okay, save scene, save project, and then just make sure it is turned off by default. Save scene, save project. So now if I hit play, we've got this. Now it's, we got a null reference. Probably because we haven't assigned much at all yet. Anything. We haven't assigned anything yet. Okay. So we need to get our button right, our button left, and then our, I think text is the label. Yeah, this text should be the label. Oh, and disabled should be, let's see, let's just enable this. So for our button, a disabled color probably looks something like that. So just say like 16. Okay. So in our here, in level, level select manager, it was basically all black, but then this was going to be 16. Okay. Let's save this. Make sure we've disabled that. Okay. There we go. And so it's not letting us go left or right because our max level is 1 and our minimum level is 1, so we can't do anything here. But we can still hit play and it just reloads the level again. Bang. Just like that. Okay, that's fine. So now all that's left to do is to get a couple more levels in there, and that shouldn't be too difficult to do. Let's just make sure all of our prefabs are all, up to date, level manager, and that kind of thing. Just so it's all saved and everything. It's fine. Yeah, honestly, I think we are all good in terms of the way we've set everything up. Yep.